Welcome, everybody. We're back here November 22nd for a budget meeting. Go ahead. Who's in charge?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay, welcome back. So we are here to go over the 2023 budget and changes that we've made since our last budget meeting. I'll just go over them in general and then we can get into some of the details. So we have adjusted the cost of living adjustment from 2.5% to 3%. $10,000 has been added to the event center for a kitchen upgrade, so that's not coming out of unspecified projects. It's its own cost for $10,000. $50,000 has been added to fleet as a transfer to reserve to be used for replacement of fleet. So we'll do a $50,000 transfer annually, and then we can use that $50,000 in following years to replace fleet. $10,000 has been added to community engagement and economic development for the economic strategist. $40,000 has been added to community services admin, earmarked for contributions for the Rotary Bike and Skate Park. So this is based on the agreement that we had. That wasn't previously in the budget, so we know that's coming up this year. That has been added. $65,000 has been added to the replacement of the Utilities Motor Control Center. So this is a total project cost now of $240,000. These additional funds have been added to fund the upgrade of the building at the water reservoir. So that's by the swimming pool. This is to facilitate this building being able to talk with our main control center. And that's where the main, like the largest portion of this budget is for the upgrade at the control center. So these additional funds are coming out of our CCBF funding. So our federal funding was planned to pay for the $230,000, and so now with the additional $65,000, it's $240,000 coming up. $16,000 has been added for the replacement of the SCBA air compressors at the fire hall. So this is the compressors, the compressor tanks, and then also the tanks on each individual truck. So with the upgraded equipment that we're getting, we have to also upgrade the compressors. Total cost of this is $48,000 now, so we've added the 16. These funds will also be coming out of reserve as we had originally planned with the $32,000 that was originally budgeted. Recycling, infrastructure, and service charge revenue from utility billing have each been increased by $1. So this results in an additional $90,000 of revenue, of which $30,000 has been earmarked for the infrastructure reserve. So that's going, the additional money collected is going directly into reserve, and the remainder has been used to present the balanced budget today. So I will turn your attention to our folders. Page 12 has the full operation budget summary consolidated. So with all of these changes that I have just gone over, we are still, the net surplus before amortization is $2,100. So we were able to add all these items into the budget and still have a balanced budget with a small surplus. There's one more thing that we do need to discuss, and it's an additional initiative that has come up just in the last week. There's been some failure of the equipment at the fire hall regarding cameras. And so facilities manager Dan has brought up a proposal to upgrade the cameras and the scan system. And that's $24,000, which would also recommend coming out of the emergency facility reserve fund. So our building reserve has a current balance of $416,000. And with the 2023 items earmarked, the ending balance would be $333,500. So we would still have a significant emergency facility reserve with this additional $24,000. So out of everything that I've discussed just now, this is the only item that is not currently in the budget.
And just to clarify, Director Saskew, that the emergency services building has its own reserve for that building, correct?
Correct. Yes, that's the original, the balance as of today is $416,000, and then with the 2023 additions that we're proposing, the gear washer and whatnot coming out of that reserve, the ending balance, including this $25,000 that I'm proposing now, would be $333,500. So we would still have a significant balance in that reserve.
Okay, and so up to now, she introduced a couple of things that prior council had made a commitment to the skate park, either through a loan guarantee there where we would be losing interest by loaning some money, or we were gonna grant them $40,000. So that will now, from a previous council, show up in this year's budget. And we didn't discuss that during budget, the meetings before this, but that's where that 40,000 comes from. Any other questions so far of Director? Okay.
Okay, so the budget documents as presented have been vetted by us at the previous budget meeting. So I will go through the capital summaries now quickly, and then we can open it up for any further questions. Page 39 is the start of the capital section. So this is the overall summary. I'm actually gonna flip to page 40, which goes line by line, the 5-year plan for each, so to say, department. Community services is still a term that I'm using because I don't know how else to say fire, recreation, facilities, and administration. So that's just what the term is. We can, if council chooses, I can change the name for the official budget presentation. But in there, we have replacing engine 1, the SCBA replacements.
Can we just stop for a second? So, in the 2023 year, the replacing engine number 1, you're showing 800,000.
That is correct. So it is budgeted as 400,000 from MSI and 400,000 is a debenture. So there's only 400,000 that's, but it's still budgeted for the full 8 in 2023.
So if we don't have to pay it all, then the additional amount would carry over to the.
Yes. Yeah, so it's in the capital budget. It's not actually getting funded by taxpayers. So we'll do the debenture for the 400,000. We'll do the borrowing bylaw for that at the start of this year, and then it's available for whenever the vehicle gets delivered. So that's also, I can go to the capital tab, so that was detailed.
No, I didn't know that we were gonna debenture that money. That's not the way I looked at it. I mean, is anybody else? I thought we were gonna use MSI for the first part this year, and then that we would probably have some time for the next payment on that truck. So are you telling me they want this money all up front?
I was under the understanding that you wanted a debenture for it, so it could be changed to be just 400,000 for the year, and we can order the truck, but that's how I put it into the budget. That was my understanding, is that we wanted to do the $400,000 out of MSI and then the $400,000 debenture, as the other truck's debenture is almost fully repaid, and it would just roll into.
Okay, is that what everybody else feels about that? I was waiting to have a conversation with the county about how a certain reserve was gonna be used, and we could bring some of that forward. I actually didn't know we were gonna debenture money in 2023 for a truck that we weren't gonna see.
We weren't planning, the debenture you don't do until the truck is actually delivered. So as for this budget, we put that in as the debenture as kind of the last resort, no different than with the forced main project. We do the debenture for the total amount that we may need, and then at the end, we only debenture what we actually need. So if the county chips in, let's say 200,000, and we only need to debenture the 200, by having the $400,000 debenture bylaw, the borrowing bylaw, you're able to tap into the 200 that you need.
Okay. I was trying to keep anything debentures down low as we possibly could. We know that hopefully we're gonna not have to debenture some other money in this year, and to move forward to pay some bills for next year. The debenture will be drawn next year.
Yes.
Okay, well, in the budget, it works right now the way it is.
Okay.
But as soon as we know what the payment schedule looks like on this apparatus, then I just didn't know that this was gonna be a debenture in this year's budget.
It was for purposes of balancing the budget in the event that a truck could be delivered by the end of the year and there was no other scene in sight, we would have the debenture to fall back on. It does not, like, the debenture only gets added to our borrowing rates if we pull on it. So we could do 5 borrowing bylaws tomorrow, but until we actually use that bylaw to pull those funds out, it's not hitting us.
Okay, do you show any debenture payment
No,
in 2023?
absolutely not, no.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Worship. Another thing to keep in mind conceptually with these capital plans is that we're required to show actual expenses. So we can't net it out per se for purposes of the expense on the budget document. So the reason we're seeing 800 there is because the truck is actually 800,000. We're required to show that, according to accounting standards, you know.
I'm okay with it as long as we're not collecting tax for a debenture payment that we're not gonna make.
No, we aren't.
I'm fine. Okay, thank you.
So if it did get delivered in 2023, I'd be surprised if it was before December. So we're still waiting for our solid waste truck from 2021 budget, so.
Just when I see it in here and the way you were paying for it in debenture, I just wanted to make sure that there's no debenture payment
I
built
have
into
no
this.
debenture payment scheduled, none at
Okay.
all. Okay, so that's those. Moving forward onto the next page is the infrastructure planning and development. So you can see the 5-year plan here with each of the capital additions. We have gone through these fairly extensively, unless there's somebody has a question. You can see the MCC pump and control system is now at the 240, so that's the increase from, I believe it was 175 before. And that is everything. And then onto the page 42 is the capital projects. So as they're planned, Southeast 17, Fourth Street replacement, and then 52nd Street sewer replacement for 250,000. So, and you can see the 5-year plan and the things that are funded through capital, operating, reserves, and debenture. So, at this time, I would open up the floor if there's any questions about any of the changes that have been made. There haven't been too many changes since we last spoke, so.
Any questions? So on the 5-year operation plan at the RCMP detachment
Yes.
and the replacement cost for whatever they're doing this year, it's built in here?
That is correct. I have updated all the RCMP costs based on the most recent document that we had received from them. They had a line there that shows the operating impact that would hit the town, so that has been added into this extensively.
Okay.
It's operating that you're talking about, not capital?
Yeah, it's their operating expense.
Well, the difference in the cost of per member cost.
Yeah, they add
significant this
capital
year.
in.
Yeah, so, and then we know that the upgrading of equipment and stuff is gonna be following here right away, and every year they gave us a 5-year plan, what the charges are gonna look like, so.
I've got a very specific question.
Okay,
Maybe this is to Dale. On page 41, 5-year capital plan, halfway down below the highway truck. I hadn't noticed that before.
A small grader?
Yeah,
It's been in there for a couple of years. We're gonna rent one last year. We were unable to. So we're just, Brad Mills, Public Works Manager, would like to keep it on the books. So we just keep floating it down a couple of years until we actually get the rental, get to use it, see if it's gonna be worth if it's gonna be worth the amount of money that it's in there. I will keep pushing it down the line until that time.
and the intention is to see if operationally, if this is,
We have to
Useful?
demonstrate if it's operationally useful for our rear lanes and the issues that we have, and also weigh that against the cost of purchasing a unit, and then trying to lease one last year was not an option for us.
okay, thank you.
Or for this year, we were not able to lease one in 2022. They're just not available.
CAO, like,
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Just offer apologies on that sheet. The year headings there were unfortunately not captured in the printing, so that small grader, Councilor Rudick, if I read this correctly, should be in the 2025 column. Yeah, so that's not a planned purchase for this
Oh,
year.
I thought I got all this.
Yeah.
4.3 million.
well, and no matter what, I mean, we've never hid the fact that we would like to get some alley work done. And I know we didn't talk a lot about it in this budget, I mean, the Public Works has a budget. Is there still a plan that to try to lease a smaller piece of equipment to go in and start trying to shape some of these alleys? I mean, I know that we're a ways away from buying a grader, but I mean, we've publicly stated to this council that back alleys are important. So I mean, there's still a plan to rent a smaller piece of equipment, correct?
There's still a plan to continue to take our worst lanes and make them not our worst lanes, and that's in this operational budget.
Okay, thank you. What happened? Everybody got really quiet here. What's going on? Is it that good? Everybody's that happy?
We can go through the capital tables again if you want to see some of the details and the ones and twos and threes, but I think we went through that fairly extensively. If you go to your capital tab, the gray paper is the updated documents. The only numbers that have changed are the SCBA for the fire department as well as the motor control center for utilities. Everything else remains fairly unchanged. These are the documents that we plan to bring to you monthly in the new year so that we can give an update and a progress report on capital and operating items as they are getting completed.
This is where the bigger action item is.
This will be the big action item that's going
Yes.
forward.
And just to note, I know that some of the numbers are skewed, but I've kept the numbering the same from our original budget, pre-budget work, where they were in order from 1 till 62. So some items got moved to capital and some items got moved to operating, but then at least all the numbers are consistent throughout the entire budget process. So yeah, not a ton of changes. And so you can see on the capital initiatives 2023 funding sources, so that's the last gray page. Number 61 under protective services, replace engine 1. We have 400,000 coming out of grants. It's an $800,000 total project. And in my notes, I say it's an MSI/loans. So we can do the borrowing bylaw so that it's there. You have to do that before the project starts so that you're able to use it. So we can do a borrowing bylaw for 400,000. Then if we need it even for $100,000, it's available to us to draw on whenever the vehicle gets delivered, which could be 2024 or 5, depending on delivery times.
Okay, go ahead, Councilor Rudy.
So I just have a couple questions here. On the second page of the capital initiatives, number 35, you referenced the event center kitchen upgrade. It shows that it's removed here. Can you just?
Yes, so that one
remind-
just needs to get added back in. I'm sorry, that's one I missed.
Okay. And the other questions that I had is when we were in discussions, we had a presentation from the Hatley Group about the museum. Did we put anything back in here?
I think
Collectively?
Councilor Rudy missed that meeting.
Yes, yeah, she did, because we
And,
chose for 2024, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah, we basically didn't fund.
So no action on those, so there's no action on the report there except to do the kitchen and the Hockey Hall of Fame, which is really an adjunct project. It's not really the museum,
It'll be a sports hall of fame, yeah.
right?
Yeah, and there was, how do we word that, that we were going to put some money, small amount of money into decommissioning some, to get some advice on decommissioning some of the, yeah. So we weren't in favor of the Hatley Group proposal.
Okay, so it will be largely inactive?
We are going to source some more information on how we
Okay.
could decommission some of those things moving forward.
Okay, and then my second question, or I guess third question was about the welcoming, inclusive, and connected community strategy. What was the verdict on that? That
So
would be under,
there was, FCSS has some money in their budget for a new strategic plan. And then we are going to come together after that and how are we gonna, like, there was no money put aside in this budget for, go ahead.
So our FCSS strategic plan, we have $5,000 budgeted to do that next year. And then for the FCSS master plan, that is budgeted into 2024 at $30,000 currently. So it's in the 2024 budget column.
10 for the strategic.
And so this would be part of that.
Oh, yeah, so sorry,
Initiative?
10,000, but 5,000 here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Your Worship, just clarifying, it was 10 for the strategic plan for FCSS because we have $5,000 coming from two separate areas of the budget. The quote we have for the work is actually 7,500, so well within that budget. And then we're hoping that the strategic plan will point to the community's need for a welcoming and inclusive plan, and we can use that as a document to support the idea of the WIC initiative.
So the plan was right after budget, that this will wait until FCSS's new strategic plan, and then we're gonna come together, there'll be some money left, and we're gonna sit down as a council and members of the community and try to figure out where we're gonna go. But we didn't put a lot of money into a plan,
Okay.
into having an outside resource come in here, so.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that this work wasn't lost, so, okay.
No, we're committed to, right in the new year, as soon as FCSS is done what they wanna get done first, and then they're gonna bring that back to council, and then we're gonna move forward with it.
Yeah, we've got the quote, there's contractors sort of waiting in the wings, and yeah, we're just waiting for the year to roll over and the new budget to kick in, and FCSS is ready to get that work underway.
Any other questions? So what you guys are saying is that we can instruct Director Saskew to go buy a new pair of shoes? Is that what we're saying here?
Sounds like the time.
Does that come out of the budget, or?
And we're
I've got a peeker.
going to add because it's reserves, the camera stuff is.
Yeah, I was,
It's coming out of that one building reserve.
so as long as I have a consensus on that, I will add that to the final budget, but it'll be an in and an out, because it won't actually be levied to ratepayers, because it's coming out of a reserve. So,
So there will be a 3% increase in COLA for the employees of this organization. There will be $3 a month more billing on the utility bill for every bill that goes out. And there'll be a 2% increase in property tax from the rate last year. That's what we're proposing right now to finance the budget that we have. Everybody's clear? So the 2% that we're increasing the taxes is basically where we get back to where we were 2 years ago, where we rolled back tax by 2%.
back to 2020 rates, correct.
Go ahead.
Thanks,
CEO
Worship. And a lot of those facts are contained on page 7 early on in the budget binder. Director Saskew did a great job of putting that into words for the members of the public, so it spells it out there. You know, along with the monthly cost for taxes and the whole bit that was presented in the last meeting, so.
Go ahead.
I just want to ask more questions about the camera purchase for the emergency services, thank you, building. The monitoring systems, the dovetailing of multiple security systems, I assume is still proceeding, and this is a separate purchase and separate from security monitoring that was put on as a future topic on the list here. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. It brings up what, excuse me, the system they have now isn't working anymore. It died last week, so it's just replacing the old system with something newer that ties into the system that we already use.
So instead of having a few different companies monitoring calls and stuff like that, we're all gonna be under that one umbrella.
Eventually, that's the big plan, but this just sped up a little bit for that building, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And then, because this is coming from that specific building reserve, we don't have any other buildings that are necessarily separated out like that. We have facilities reserve, and this building has been set aside. So,
From an old fire agreement, yes.
Right.
And like with the EMS renting at that time, I think there was, that money's
Yeah.
we're putting into the reserve. There is, the only other building that has that is the multiplex, because we have an agreement with the Heather Curling Club. We're each funding a reserve annually, and that one's at about $108,000.
so my question would be moving forward, because that is a pre-existing pot of money that had been derived from a rental agreement. Is that going to continue as a separate reserve, or are we going to have a facilities reserve that could be used?
You have the power to change that. So we can revisit that in 2023. That's, the reserve policy was another one that I was thinking that would be a good one to bring before council, especially since we have some new members on council since that was derived.
Because I think this makes it easy for us to make this decision, but if it was a different building, we would be potentially hemming and hawing about it rather than like easily deciding that, of course, there's money there. So maybe that would be a good evaluation to be taking a look at again, because we've got an older facilities master plan that identifies that there are some weaknesses in different facilities, some of which have become a little bit more pointed in our budget discussions. So I would look forward to seeing a more universal approach to facilities so that we don't parcel them off.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Councilor Rudick. There's pros and cons to doing it both ways, right? You segment all the buildings and there's tracking and then everything's kind of compartmentalized. My preference when I was in finance was to always just have one big pot, and then it's easier to draw from.
Well, the tenant that was in there before, it was a unique situation, and so we could build a reserve at that facility.
Yeah,
Based
using
on
direct
the
funding.
annual. So, yeah, and I don't disagree that now to have that earmarked for itself, when we have a lot of challenges with facilities, we can definitely have that conversation about coming back and taking a look. And you're right, a lot of the reserves are new to a couple of counselors, and some of them are even old for some of us old guys. So to have a conversation, have it on the agenda at one of our meetings, it'll be good. But, I mean, there's basically, I mean, we need to have a conversation about the post office eventually, and we said that after budget, we're gonna sit down and have these tough conversations, because there's no way we can put that into where we're at this year in the budget and stuff, and we don't really know what direction we wanna go with that building. So when it comes to facilities, there's lots of stuff that we need to make decisions on. How long are we willing to finance something that, or put repairs into something that just don't make sense anymore, so I think looking at that reserve for facilities and an overall update of where our facilities at is gonna be important, so. But I don't think we bring in a contractor. We got Dan now, so we're good, so. Wow, I can't believe it. You guys are all happy with this budget. That's pretty darn good.
We talked about it quite a bit.
Well, I know, we've had a lot of working meetings about it, but I think that we've made some good decisions here, and financially, this town's still in really good shape, and I think that we're addressing what the biggest needs are. I mean, there's not a lot of wants in here, but, okay, so there's no more questions for admin at all on this budget? Going once, going twice? I think that you can send this to the printer now.
And on that note, Your Worship, we'd even discussed bringing it forward on the 28th here next week for the first component of adoption. Is council comfortable with that? Yeah? Okay, awesome,
Excellent.
excellent.
Is this some kind of record?
I think so.
Must be the new guy.
Well, I think a little bit of the planning and process that we did helped us get us here.
For sure.
Because I appreciate it, I understand. Thank you again to all the managers that came in. I understand that was a hard part of the process for some of them that maybe weren't as comfortable. But I think that as we went through, we've gone so deep into it that I feel like we have a good understanding of the budget, and understood what they might need as well. And while we said there wasn't a lot of wants, I feel like what I heard from the directors and the managers was that the decisions we made are still gonna allow them to provide the same quality of service. So I think that's a big thing, so thank you guys.
Well, it's important too that, you know, for some counselors, their second budget now, and they understand the process even more. And, you know, we're just hitting our stride now, really. I mean, with the rate of inflation that we've seen over the last 18 months here, and we can be able to hold this to a 2% increase, and help our staff out with the COLA and stuff. I think we've done a very good job, so thank you all. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Councillor Rudy.
As we move forward to sharing this further with the public, because of course they don't get to see all of this, and some of the requirements or the requests that finance made to the different departments, that they would be, the request would come forward with a justification of how this fit into our strategic plan. Is there a way to be able to sort of take what's in the forward and something that's able to share with the public in a way that sort of highlights how some of the major decisions that we made fit into our people and culture, the growth, the quality of life, and infrastructure investment? So it's got an easy explanation of some of the things that we've decided. Because I think even, just as the mayor highlighted, some of the decisions that we made, we're demonstrating our commitment to people and culture by investing in our staff and also investing in our community in some specific ways.
And that, actually, I had that conversation with our communications today, saying, how can we present this budget? Like, obviously, this full document's gonna go out, but like, we kind of want the highlights, like the highlights of it. So it'll really be stemming from these operating capital tables that we had, and going through like some of these highlight items. We are getting a new bullards at the Pasanka Park and doing some paving, and this is tying into our strategic plan this way. So that is a conversation we've been having, and that is something that we wanna kind of get the word of the budget out, and like, here's some of the great highlights, other than overall our budget is balanced with $2,000 profit. Like, that doesn't really put many butts in the seats.
Small businessmen will appreciate it.
Yes.
I mean, residents of the town of Vegreville should appreciate it too, because they know that we've cut as much as we could of the operations in the last few years to try to keep taxes as low as we can. And sometimes it was at the cost of our own staff, but there was, things were getting tough, but now that we can get back to the same tax rate we were 2 years ago and have a balanced budget with, and I think we stayed true to what we as a council were trying to achieve here, and I'm very happy that we can produce a document like this and still hold the service level in this community the way it's always been, because it's not been easy to take the money out of operations and expect that you can deliver services at the same quality when you take money out of operations, but somehow we managed to do it, so.
Maybe you can send them to higher levels of government, because our admin has managed to do something that apparently the provincial and federal governments can't.
I'll
Good
take
job.
that win, yeah.
Well,
Right?
Well, we
I
can't
guess
run a
we-
deficit.
when you're as close as we are to the people you serve, you better do a better job.
There you go.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then I do believe that our budget process is through, and we look forward to, the next step is passing it at the council meeting, so. With that being said, is there any other comments from,
No, other than to just thank council for a really good collaborative process with some great discussion. Couldn't have got here without you, so appreciate the hard work on your part, guys, and definitely happy with this document.
were you gonna thank them now?
Oh, yeah.
Well, go ahead, your turn.
Hard to thank them.
Yeah, well,
Yes, I get to do it. Okay.
yeah,
Well, thank you to all our directors and our CAO, and of course Sandra, because we know that behind every one of those moments is usually Sandra. So great job and a lot of hard work. Thank you.
okay. With that being said, that's how we all feel, so, thank you all. And I don't know, we have to adjourn budget meetings, but it's 6:14, and she's over.
So